One of the biggest things that prevents players from improving is lack of good quality practice. Now, it's very common for players to get out on court and play lots of tennis. They hit a ton of balls, they play points, they play matches, but then they don't really improve all that much because there is a drastic difference between playing lots of tennis and practicing in a way that actually allows you to improve your performance. And that's why I wanted to make this video series for you about the foundations of high-level practice so that you can really start to take your game to the next level. Now, I'm under no illusions. I understand that this stuff is way less glamorous than some of the videos out there that claim that you can create instant power on your forehand by implementing a quick tip. But hopefully, you've already watched enough of those videos to understand that it's a lot more complicated than that. So if you really want to improve your game, if you want to become a better player, this video and this video series is going to be a lot more valuable to you. I'm going to start the series off by explaining the 3 biggest mistakes that players make within their practice that holds them back, and then obviously we're going to talk about how to address them. So I hope you find this video and the rest of the series really helpful. If you do, it'd be fantastic if you could give me a thumbs up. And of course, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, really appreciate it if you could do that as well. The number 1 mistake that players make is not actually practicing the shot that they're struggling with. Now, this might sound strange, but on a daily basis, I talk to tennis players, and this is something that comes up over and over again. And one of the most common areas that it occurs is with short or put away shots. And a classic example is players that are struggling to put away short forehands or high forehands. Now, when you ask them about their practice, they don't actually work on it. They spend a lot of time hitting balls from the back of the court, so they generally start off hitting down the middle. Some of them hit a few cross-court balls, but then they go into playing points. At no point did they actually hit a number of short forehands. And you can't expect to be able to do something if you haven't practiced, because there's not just one perfect forehand technique, despite what some of the videos might tell you. There's lots of different variations of the forehand technique. And the way that you hit the ball from the back of the court is going to be different to the way that you hit the ball when it's a little bit shorter. The way that you approach the ball is different, so it's going to be different footwork. Your spacing is going to be different. For the lower balls, you're going to be a little bit closer. For the higher balls, you're going to be a little bit further away. And then the swing path is going to be different. Again, for those low balls, you're going to have to change the shape of your swing to get the ball to dip up, over, and get it drop into the baseline. And for the higher balls, you're going to be hitting through and flattening out the swing a little bit more. So it's a different technique to the technique used at the back of the court. So you can't expect just by practicing at the back of the court that that's going to allow you to suddenly execute a shot in a pressure situation. Now, where this creates a problem is the way that you practice, because in order to get repetitions of certain shots, there are only a few ways to make it happen. Now, obviously, one of them is to hire a coach, which is an option for some people. I don't work with a coach myself. I tend to do a lot of work with a ball machine because you can just set up a lot of individual feeds, so you can practice that high forehand or the low short forehands and get repetitions in that way. Or you can work with a cooperative practice partner. So potentially you could get a basket and just feed balls to each other, take it in turns and work on things that way. Or alternatively, if you don't have a basket of balls, you can kind of set up cooperative drills. So maybe one person feeds that short ball, the other person comes in, attacks the short forehand, and then you keep on switching, or potentially you could do that same thing and then play out the point. But it is a really big mistake that players make. Practice is very specific. If you're struggling with a certain shot, you need to spend time doing enough repetitions of that particular shot. The second biggest mistake that players make is trying to fix too many things at one time within their stroke. Now, the way our bodies function, the way our brains function, we can only pay attention to and focus on so much information at any one time. And when you're doing high-level practice, it does require a lot of focus and a lot of concentration in order to make those changes and learn new technique. So if you find yourself out on court and you're thinking about trying to change the way that you do your unit turn, you're trying to take your elbow back higher, you're thinking about your spacing from the ball, you're thinking about trying to create racket lag and thinking about the contact point and thinking about watching the ball and keeping your head still on contact, that's going to be too many things, and the end result is you're going to not improve any of them. So what you need to do for better quality practice is just focus on one or maybe two things maximum that you're going to be fixing at any one time, and you have to work on that thing until you've fixed the problem. Now, obviously what flows on from this is the thing that you should be working on and trying to fix, and that's what we're going to be talking about with mistake number 3. So the third mistake that players make is focusing on and trying to fix the wrong thing within their stroke. And what we've just talked about is you can only pay attention to so much at any one time, so you need to make sure you're choosing the right thing. Because where this gets challenging is there's a lot of great content on YouTube that kind of breaks down the technique that the pros use. So potentially you might have watched a video talking about the importance of racket lag on the forehand for generating power, and it is very important at the high level. But potentially there could be something way more fundamental going wrong with your stroke. So maybe something to do with your preparation, or maybe something to do with the biomechanics and using your hips, something like that, that's a real foundational component of generating power. And by focusing on the racket lag, you're not addressing the real problem, and it's basically going to leave you spinning your wheels and not really improving. So one of the most critical components of your practice is breaking down your strokes properly to work out which thing that you need to work on, and then focusing on fixing that until it's done. Now, that's going to be the topic of our next video, so I'm going to be breaking down how to analyze and fix your strokes, so then you can start to incorporate within your practice sessions and make some real progress. Now, before I close this video out, obviously here we're talking about practice because it's one of the biggest things that prevents players from improving, but the other thing that prevents most players from improving is not having enough ability or skill to play at the level that they want. You know, we watch the pros play and we take it for granted that the things they do are incredibly hard. So there is a large potential that one of the things that's going on within your game at the moment is, yes, you're not practicing optimally, but potentially you don't have the eye to hand and eye to foot coordination in order to be able to read where the ball's going and to use these techniques that you're trying to change. The good news though is that stuff that you can actually improve with brain-based training, and this is the big thing that I help players with. If you would like to learn more about that side of things, I've created a masterclass. I'll place a link up there, and I'll place a link down in the description so you can check that out if you would like to. So hopefully you have enjoyed this video. The next video in the series is going to be all about how to analyze your strokes so you can start to practice the right thing. When it's ready and available, I will place it just there.